catch up, but I just started with the first house, so I don't know if I can follow.
Okay, no worries. We are now closing on to eighth and ninth. So I'm sure you'll be able to catch up. Yeah. Do you have any background in Vedic or astrology?
Yeah, I studied Western astrology, and as I said, I learned till the first house.
Ah, okay.
So I did all the grahas and the graha drishtis and the rashi
Oh,
drishtis.
excellent.
Yeah.
Excellent. Good accent. Very nice. Very impressive. Welcome. Anyway, so today we are going to do a little bit about the eighth house again, where we left off. And then we continue with one of the highest houses in the trine houses in the of the chart, which is the ninth house. And we will then realize that the ninth house cannot just be read on its own. Because it's a trine house, it's the Agni, the fire house. So it's like trine to the Lagna and trine to the fifth house. So it's the Aries, Leo, and Sagittarius trine. So the fire energy in the trine houses is very, very strong. And these houses, the fifth and the ninth, are very, very auspicious. The lords of these houses are extremely powerful, and the best remedies come from these two houses. Any kind of affliction, any kind of dosha, like sarpa dosha, or sarpa dosha is Rahu Ketu affliction in the chart. Your sun may be afflicted with Rahu Ketu, your moon may be afflicted by Rahu Ketu, your Venus or Mercury may be afflicted by Rahu Ketu, or even more than one malefic. Then the best remedies will come from the fifth house and the ninth house. So the ninth house is also the destiny maker, and it is also the house of the past. It belongs to our mentors, fathers, and our religious sects. Everything to do with religion comes under the ninth house, which is very different in flavor to the fifth house, where the fifth house is not so much about religion, but as much as about our bhakti. Bhakti is like what we value, what we are devoted to. It's about Lord Krishna, and the devotion that we feel for the divine, the divinity. Whether you're painting, it's artwork, or a piece of music, what you feel completely entranced and passionate about is the fifth house. While the ninth house, in contrast, even though it's a trine house, and yes, indeed, even though it is related with the right sort of path and your direction in life, but the ninth house is to do with actual religion per se. What floats us, what pulls us in the direction of religion. And in a way, it is also very much because it's one of the Lakshmi sthana, but the Lord Vishnu energy is very strong in the ninth house. And then we come to the 10th house. We'll tackle briefly the 10th house, which is one of the highest angular houses, one of the most, it's like our crowning glory. It's where what we are born to do. That's why it's called the karma bhava. Karma bhava, karma, the word karma in Sanskrit literally means what we are meant to do this lifetime. What is our karma? That is, what do we do? What's our action? So everybody okay with that? Yeah. Yeah. So
Yes.
let me just, yeah, okay. So now we quickly, I think we did a little bit of the eighth house, didn't we? We saw that the eighth house is basically about longevity. It is one of the issues with the eighth house, is all about longevity, in the sense, um, its karaka is, that is its significator, it's Shani, Saturn. So of course, when we talk of Shani, It takes, Shani takes, we all know, even whether it's irrespective of the astrology, we know the movement of Saturn. It takes for the entire zodiac, it takes about 29 point something years to go around the zodiac. So that this gives us a clue about what the slowness, the, it's sort of like super super slow Saturn, you know. And if you go back to some of the, I think I would have covered the whole mythological story about Saturn, that how he is a neglected son of Surya, sun. I think we are all are aware of that, right? and and the thing about the sun, the sun and Saturn is, it's always a sort of like, either you are a very Saturnian person or you're a very solar person, you know. Now, I'm not saying that, hey, if you have a conjunction, then yes, it is going to be a problem. In fact, in Parashara, in his texts, have devoted a lot of a few chapters on the curses and the doshas, and doshas are sort of like afflictions, right? And so when Sun Saturn is a big topic, it's called the Pitri dosha. Pitri is the forefathers and fathers, and dosha is a sort of like a flaw in the making, in the it's like a manufacturing defect, you know. Now, it does sound a little bit harsh, but you have to realize that we are talking of Parashara here. He lived thousands of years ago. He wrote down exclusively for its, for benefit, so that people know. I think if you have a Sun Saturn, the minute you're born, your father is going to suffer. You know, it comes, it's like a prescription, you know, it comes with the territory. You can't run away from the problems. You have to look at it and say, okay, this is, dispassionately look at things and say, okay, you know what, this is what I've got. But then there are always solutions, you know. There are ways. There is upayas. Upayas is, in Sanskrit, upayas literally means way out. You know, how do I get out of this situation? How do I get out of this whole cursed life? Sometimes it does feel cursed if you have an afflicted sun or a moon, you know, and it's aspected by many malefics. If you have sun in the eighth, you will have eye issues and eye problems at some point in your life, you know. It in the eighth house, sorry, I meant. And if you have moon in the eighth, your relationships, none of them are going to last for longer than 3 to 8 years, 7 years, you know, tops 10 years. But that comes with the territory. And then you wake up and you think, wow, okay, what can I do then? How do I change some things, you know? That is, those are the questions we answer in the eighth house. So the eighth house is a very vital house. And bear in mind that the eighth house, as I mentioned last time, what begins in the fourth house, because it's a water trine, you know, the Cancer, sign of Cancer in the fourth, and then the Scorpio in the eighth, and the 12th, which is, that is the flow, the gati, you know. So since childhood, whatever we absorb in our hearts, you know, Rith chakra, which is happens in the fourth house, growing up, you know, happiness from the mother, how afflicted we are, malefics in the fourth house will make its way felt in the eighth house. If you have a fourth lord in the eighth house, you will often wonder, why can't I get hold on to any properties? Why can't I do anything? You know, you'll keep losing property until you realize that actually, hey, you need to go abroad, and maybe there your fate will change. Okay. So these are the little you know, sort of ways around managing some of the problems. And of course, the eighth house is not a comfortable house. You know, you speak to anyone, whether it's Western chart or anyone, or any other, astrological tradition you follow, if you look at the eighth house and the eighth lord, there will be a deep wounding. There will be a little bit of a suffering there, no matter who it is, no matter what you've got in your eighth house. So please don't take the eighth house lightly, because it is also as I said, the Karaka is Shani, and it is a Karaka for longevity. So, and it is a one of the it's the fort of Durga. When we talk about the fort, literally it means protection. So what happens in the fourth house? We get protected. It follows the gati, or the flow starts to trine towards the eighth house. That's why the eighth house needs to be constantly cleansed. Our heart chakra, which is in the fourth house, needs to be constantly regenerated and changed, and kind of transformed. And the only way to transform is through the Shani, and through the planets in the eighth, or the lord of the eighth. Because bear in mind, Scorpio is all about the transformation, which is its Naisargika, which is its natural house. And the rulers of Scorpio are Mars and Ketu. So there is no better, Ketu is your point of transformation. It will rip things away if you hold on too tightly to, material gains and material stuff, because what it wants you to do is evolve on a very deep spiritual level. And that is the beauty about the eighth. And I bet nobody will say the beauty about the eighth, because eighth house is one of the most painful houses. It's not an easy house. Of course, we haven't come to the 11th, which is even probably a shade more painful. But the suffering of the eighth house is very different to the suffering of the 11th house. So there is a distinct difference. Yes, any questions so far? I see something flashing. Unfortunately, I can't
Yes,
see. Yes, go on. Yeah.
I can't. Sorry, my picture isn't working. But isn't the eighth house also? To me, the eighth house is deep relationships where you're deeply attached to someone, almost like it's a psychic connection. Do you know what I mean?
Yes,
Because
of
my brother,
course.
he's got moon in the eighth. I think in the I remember his. I don't know his Vedic chart. He's got moon in the eighth, and it's like he's
Who's
very
got
close to his
moon?
partner. And sometimes,
Sorry?
pardon,
Who's got moon in the
my
eighth?
brother.
Okay.
No, he's got moon in Leo in the eighth. This is a tropical, but it's almost like he's got a psychic connection with his partner. They've been together 35 years, and there's been times where they've almost have a psychic connection.
Okay.
It's like deep.
Well, let me please. Can we do the personal charts at the end, James? Please let me just, because you're talking of tropical chart. Lot can change within the tropical alignment, from migrating from tropical to sidereal. So let's just, let me just carry on a little bit forward, and then we'll open up for charts. And besides, I don't want to bring in personal charts just yet. You want to put up a personal chart, please feel free to put it up on the Telegram group, and then we can discuss it. Okay, please, James, is that all right?
I was just giving an example. That's all. I was
Yeah,
just
I
giving
know,
an
but
example.
eighth house is not the only. But okay, you wanted to know, he may have Mercury there. There are some planets which do very well and give you a lot of Raj Yoga in the eighth house. There's a very famous
Yeah,
Indian actor called Amitabh Bachchan. We'll put up his chart next time. But Amitabh Bachchan is like one of the iconic, he's like the Brad Pitt of India, or whoever you
yeah,
want to call. And Amitabh Bachchan has got Mercury, Sun, and there's like four planets in the eighth house. So obviously an exalted Aquarius Lagna, and an exalted Mercury in the eighth house, and all of these, and that has given him a huge Raj Yoga. He's like one of the top earners of on in probably even in as comparable to Hollywood. So everything is not please, we have to see the whole thing in a holistic manner, rather than just taking, saying that, oh, I've got moon here and so it's going to be a disaster. No, but this is the principle. When you have planets in the eighth house, it is not going to be an easy life, is what I'm saying, unless you transform it, because the eighth house is the house of transformation. And Scorpio, you have to think of the Scorpio energy. There is no sign, and I keep repeating this, there is no sign in the zodiac which has so much ability to transform as much as a Scorpio. None. Nor Aries, nor no sign. It's only a Scorpio lagna or a moon or a sun, or planets in Scorpio, which are absolutely hell-bent on getting you to transform, and regenerate. That is the whole ethos of Scorpio. Yeah. So and also the eighth house is connected with deaths and donations and dead people, as we saw last time. It is Mrita Dhanam, that is dead people's wealth, which is nothing but inheritances, when somebody passes, obviously. So, and it's also the house of lending and borrowing, and banks come in, shared resources come in. But one of the, and because it is the house of diseases, and also especially connected with hidden parts like anus and piles and all of that. So that is even more pertinent, that why this house is associated also with occult mysticism and all kinds of hidden knowledge. Hidden knowledge is tantra and black magic, white magic, you name it, whatever magic, all of this is under the purview of this house. So this is a very important house. If it's like all the cleansing and regeneration and churning happens in this house. If you don't, it's like, think of the body, human body. If you do not go and cleanse yourself, like go to the loo or go to the toilet, how are you going to feel? You're going to feel completely diseased. So that is so much important for your living. And that is why this house has also come to be associated with longevity. Now let's see a few let's move forward here a little bit. We already went through that it is also the house of Shadripu. Now, Ripu is nothing but our own faults, our own bad habits. But there is a distinct difference between the sixth house, Shadripu, that is our six cardinal sins, as we call it in the Catholic, sort of etymology. Compared to the sixth house and the eighth house, there's a distinct difference, because the eighth house, of course, both of them are our weakness, but the eighth house is actually where we err, where we goof up, where we create blunders, where it is called, in Sanskrit we call it the nija dosha. That means it is because of us. We have to take responsibility for it. And because if whatever planets land up in the eighth house, let's say you have Mercury there, some past lifetime you've been wheeling and dealing in a negative manner, or you've kind of taken somebody's wealth, because Mercury is signification. One of the key significations of Mercury is wealth, earnings and merchandising, and other people and business and markets and all that. So at some lifetime you've kind of goofed up and ran off with somebody's wealth, and now it's going to give you some kind of, you have to debt to pay, and so it's a little bit more progressively as we go. uh, it becomes a lot more complex, of course, because we are at the beginners level. But when we talk about what is the significant, like what karaka is that Mercury, let's say, for example, if you're Mercury there, whether it is your atma karaka, whether it is the king of your chart, or whatever, it's your dara karaka, that means it's your spouse significator. So if it is your spouse significator, that means you owe your spouse some kind of a returning of wealth. Maybe some lifetime she bought you, like she or he bought you like loads of properties, or bought you lots of donate gave you a lot of wealth, or gave you a lot of um, sort of material benefits, and this lifetime you're meant to pay it back, so this is the kind of thing we are dealing with. Eighth house is a very sensitive house. Extremely, people get very touchy with the eighth house. They come to tears with the eighth house. So please be very aware when dealing with the eighth house. You have to literally it's a very fragile house, but it's a very powerful house, and one of the most, because it's a trine to it's a water trine, so our entire, how we spiritually evolve, rests on this house. Without this house, we are going nowhere in any kind of spiritual evolution. If we are bogged down by diseases, if we can't change our own horrible habits which kill us, it's like sitting on a tree and then chopping the branch off. We are responsible for our own blunders, and if we cannot make amends this lifetime, then we'll never reach the 12th house, we'll never reach the the ninth house, or the the rest of the houses. And 12th house is the house of liberation, or moksha, or nirvana. So you see how vital this house is, the eight. So never underestimate. So people have romantic visions, oh, it's intense, oh, I'm kind of like an intense Scorpio. No, it's a difficult house. You have debts to pay. You come down to your knees when you are talking about this. There's a lot of suffering. That there are two signs in the entire zodiac that are will make you weep and suffer. One is Scorpio, and the other one is Aquarius. Okay, and this is coming from the Vedic tradition, so we have to just accept what it is. So these two signs will, planets in these two signs, or sun or moon, there is an inbuilt suffering in this house. So the quicker you accept that, okay, there is a suffering, now then we can move to the next question: how much, whether we whether we paid off our dues or not. So all of this we have to kind of weave together, look at the eighth house very closely. Is everybody okay with this?
Yes.
Yeah. Okay. So again, uh if the Lord of the Eight, this is from the Mantreshwara's Phaladipika, if the Lord of the Eight be vested with full strength during his Dasha period, the native will be able to clear all his debts. See, again, you know, if you have an eighth lord planetary period, whether it's Vimshottari or Narayan Dasha, or Sudarshana Chakra Dasha, or any dashas you talk about, there are many dashas. We will, if we continue to study, there are many dashas we learn, and each one of them is as brilliant as the other. And we will find that anything connected with the eighth house, this is a calling for paying our dues, which we owe to various people several lifetimes, and he will achieve progress in his profession and other activities. All disputes with him will come to an end, and he will acquire buffaloes, goats, and other cattle and servants. Now, obviously, buffaloes, goats, you have to sort of take that with, the modern sort of maybe you will acquire wealth, shared wealth. You may get a great loan from a bank, and you'll be able to invest in a business of your own and start up a business, that that is how you would derive this, rather than I will acquire a buffalo and a goat. So yeah. And Shani, the house of dead longevity, we covered that. Occult studies, and Mars is also a significator of deaths, and Saturn is a significator of longevity. We already went through that. And So the Lord of the Eighth in Gemini astrology, which is even more advanced than Parashara, um, and in Gemini there is many sutras or many dictums to do with the Lord of the Eighth, and then we read the chart, from the sun, from Lagna, from various ascendants, and we keep looking at the eighth Lord and the eighth house. If there are planets in the eighth house from Arud Lagna, which we will learn in a few sessions, Arud Lagna is what the world views us as. It's like a mirror illusion, So, but it's one of the very important lagnas for manifestations. So here, in Arud Lagna, if you have from Arud Lagna, if you have planets in the eighth house, whoa, you cannot escape this lifetime. Guaranteed, it will manifest. Any dasha, any planetary period of that eighth house or eighth lord, and boom, suddenly somebody will turn up at your doorstep and who will completely drain you, and you will wonder, why are you still with this person? Why are you still hanging around? What is the reason? And then you'll know that it's the eighth house. You owed them from some lifetime. Yes? Everybody okay with that? Not easy. Okay. So now we also, it is the Ayush Karaka as
Sonal,
yes,
Sonal, may I ask a question?
yes, go
Itu.
on. Yeah.
Only for the Antaradasha or only the Dasha?
Oh,
Of
both.
the-
Both.
Both.
Margarita,
Okay.
both. Everything will send you. This is a very integrated, very powerful, Jyotish is extremely integrated, but it takes years of studies to really grasp the correctness, the correct way of looking at it. So yes, indeed, you'll have to look at both, in order to figure out, ascertain whether which dasha it will come. But so like I said, we see the eighth house from the moon chart, which is a Chandra Lagna. We see it from the Surya Lagna. We see it from the normal Lagna, which is our Lagna. We see it from the the Karaka Lagna, where that is the Karaka Lagna is where you have your Atma Karaka in. Then we see it from the Arod Lagna. So we'll study, like there are at least 8 different Lagnas that we have to study, right? And so as we go advanced, we'll come to it, but it gets progressively easy once you know the basics. Now here Parashara from chapter 19 is talking about longevity. And now please, this is a word of warning here, please. I am covering the one of the effects. Now in Germany, we study 6 months looking at longevity and various ways. Even in the Brihat Parashara Hora Shastra, if you look at the text, it's 2 volumes. There are loads of ways where he's tackled longevity. Here there are just a few dictums, but they do not make up. Please, the best of Jyotishis and astrologers get longevity wrong. So please don't panic and say, oh my God, I've got this combination, I'm going to die. It's not like that. And so please, this is the disclaimer, but this is a general rule of thumb. And don't, like I said, it's coming straight from the text. There is no deviation, but suffice to say that unless you have studied at least 3 to 4 other core methods of longevity, you cannot make a value judgment on how long the person will live. Okay, so that involves in-depth study, so just don't panic. So anyway, coming back, he talks about long life. If eighth lord is in an angle, long life is indicated. Now, again, this I would take with a pinch of salt. But one thing I have noticed, and I'm going to share this with you guys, is eighth lord, if it is exalted or very strong, okay, and if it is in, like, let's say the fifth house or the 11th house, then you tend to live very long. Okay. Now, again, like I said, there can be myriad of other principles which may kind of bring this dictum, which may take higher precedence over this, but this is a general rule of thumb. Okay. So if you have a strong eighth lord, then and if it is an exalted eighth lord, then you will live long, and we will see some examples. Okay. And short life, if eighth lord joins lagna lord or a malefic, or be in eighth itself, the native will be short lived. Now please, again, like I said, do not panic if your eighth lord is let's say with Ketu, then you'll say, oh my god, I'm going to live like really short. Please, like I said, one thing does not make up a story. Okay. If you have this Shani in the eighth house, that is also another one. You will live long. Let's say, because Shani is the Ayush Karaka, that means it creates, it's a significator of longevity. Think about the movement of Shani, which I already said, so of course, and the Karaka of this house is also Shani. So and debt collector, he's like the grim reaper, as the Western astrologers will call it. And there is a reason, because he is grim. It's not easy. People want to just say, okay, I'll take this, I'll take that. But then when it comes to repaying, they'll be like, oh, I can't be bothered, and that's what happens for lifetimes and lifetimes. People will take and take and take. But when it comes to actually paying off, there is no free ride. And that is what Shani is there to ensure, that you don't get a free ride, that it has to be fair. Yeah, and he will ensure that you play fair. So if somebody does really horrible things to you, and and you have, let's say, Shani in the eighth house, and you've been like taken for a ride, or you have Rahu in the eighth and you've been taken for a ride, and Rahu is your Atmakaraka, let's say, that is the king of your chart, don't panic. Because you know what, invariably at some point, because the karma, Shani's law, is so perfect and so strong, that invariably they will pay and you will not even know it. So it's not your duty to play God and get them to pay. So that is one of the big lessons of Shani. Okay. So now there will be long life if the sixth is in the 12th. Now these are beautiful yogas, which when we come to yogas, we will study. But when I say beautiful, I mean the results of it land up being beautiful, but it's warning. Okay. If the sixth lord is in the 12th, or the sixth lord in the sixth, or the 12th lord is in the 12th, or the sixth lord in 12th, or sixth, 8th, and 12th, if these trine lords are in each other's houses, it's a very big Raj Yoga. But I warn you, it will come through some kind of suffering. Maybe you'll inherit a fortune, but your mother and your grandmother will pass away. Well, of course, they all pass away, but the fact is that it'll be maybe very painful for you, or there may be a lot of infighting before, by the time they pass, and it'll be a very painful situation. So, but out of that painful situation, something very good will come if you have eighth lord in the 12th, yeah, or the 12th lord in the 8th. So these yogas are very positive. If you have sixth lord in the sixth is the house of sort of like opposition and enemies, and all that conflict and all that. If the lord of the sixth goes in the 8th, so you're going to drive your enemy batty, you're going to just kill him. You don't have to do much, he'll just die of himself. He'll just hang himself and not literally, but given that you give him enough rope to hang, and I mean figuratively, not literally, please. So he'll just go off and hang himself. And the same thing with, if you have sixth lord in the 12th house, all your enemies, all your conflicts, you'll just throw it in the bin, which is the 12th house. So these are some of the little yogas, and I thought it's quite interesting that you know that Parashara is mentioning it under the effects of the 8th house. Now, if the lords of the 5th, 8th, and 1st are in own Navamshas or own Rashis or in friendly Rashis or signs, native will enjoy a long span of life. So, similarly, you can read about all this. Like I said, I don't want to spend too much time because there's lots of dictums like that. I don't really, again, this is a word of warning. Death will be instant at birth. As I said, Parashara has a whole chapter to, you know, Arishta and Arishta yogas, which is birth, you know, yogas, when you, certain yogas, which will, where the children will pass away. But again, it's highly sensitive, highly conflicting, and I would not want to do it at this point. But because this is in part of this effects of the 8th house, I thought it was pertinent to just put it there. But please, by all means, research it, have a look, study it, do a few charts to figure out what the situation is before you start panicking in any shape or form. Okay. Now, if one will be long lived, if Lagna Lord is in exaltation, while Moon and Jupiter are respectively in 11th and 8th, if Lagna Lord is exceedingly strong and receives an aspect from a benefic which is placed in an angle, the person concerned will be wealthy, virtuous, and long lived. So there are many dictums like that. In ideal scenario, you want the Lagna Lord, that is the ascendant Lord, also to be very strong, and in fact stronger than the 8th lord. Right? And the other thing is, you also want the 8th lord in a sort of like a difficult house, like the 6th house or the 12th house, so that even though you're it's sort of it's not so it's like a thug going to another thug's place, so it sort of cancels out. Later we will learn more about this particular yoga. Anyway, let's look at the chart of Jimmy Carter. Are we all familiar with him?
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Yeah,
Yes.
you can unmute yourself. So we all know he's like one of the longest who lived the longest among all the US presidents. And tell me his chart. What do you see? Can if somebody volunteer?
Kalsapa Yoga.
Yeah, but I'm talking of in terms of like 8th house and Lagna Lord.
8th house is in 11th. Correct.
Yes, great. That's one Lord. Yes. Remember, Taurus has got two. We'll look at both.
Moon is in Lagna.
Yes, and Moon is with who?
Libra. Oh, Saturn.
Yes. So it's the Saturn is the Ayushkaraka, and that is exalted. Remember what I said. Remember the dictum which we did earlier. If the Saturn is somewhere we did, you'll have to go back to it. I can't, anyway. So basically, the dictum was that if the 8th Lord is exalted or in the 11th or with an exalted planet, because you have to kind of use a little bit of your own intelligence here, because and that will come with a little bit of practice, because that's a very strong yoga of the 8th. That 8th lord is very strong, but of course the thing with Libra people is no doubt, um Librans tend to have this thing that the 8th lord and the Lagna lord is the same. Yeah, just like a Scorpio Lagna, just like a Scorpio Lagna and an Aries Lagna, Venus in Venus signs, Venus ruled signs, and Mars ruled signs. They have this thing where the Lagna lord or the sixth house either or the eighth house have the same lords, which gives you a lot of clue about what the Libras, sorry, the Venus ruled signs and Mars ruled signs have in terms of karma, so often there is a lot of karma towards the eighth house and the sixth house, desires and our bad habits and all that. Of course, it's Venus and Mars, you see. So anyway, I'm digressing a little bit here, but this is sort of like a general rule of thumb I'm talking about. Okay. So anyway, here we talk about, so you see, that he's got an exalted planet, Saturn in Lagna, which of course is a great Raj Yoga, and the 10th Lord also in Lagna. Yes. Can everybody see that?
Yeah.
Okay. So that's good, huh? Okay. Is any questions so far?
Oh no, I find this chart the shape of it difficult to read. Sorry. Where is Aries? Where, where's in this?
I think you missed our sessions here, where we did 3 different kinds of charts.
Okay,
They are all, the South Indian is here, the Jupiter chart, the Shukra chart is here, the North Indian, and this is the East Indian. Okay, so you missed that. You may need to go back. Is everybody clear here? Can everybody read this chart at least?
Yeah.
Yeah, no problems here, Ingrid?
Yeah.
Yeah, like I wanted to tell him that Aries is on the top in the middle.
Yeah, exactly. But James, you'll have to sort of have a look there. But Aries is here,
Yeah.
and we follow. See, the South Indian and the East Indian have a set. It's not a dynamic chart.
Yeah.
Okay, it's not a dynamic thing. It's a fixed, which is very positive. Going forward, if you want to get good results from your Jyotish studies, I would encourage you to use either the South Indian, which is the Jupiter chart. If you have Jupiter strong, I'm sure some people with Jupiter in Lagna will prefer the South Indian chart, and people who have a strong sun in Lagna or sun aspecting their ascendant will want to use this East Indian chart. And if you see, really, the East Indian is quite similar to the North Indian, except the North Indian is more like a Western circle chart where the dynamic, the ascendant keeps changing, it's not fixed. Yeah.
I
Everybody.
think I prefer, what's the one with the triangles at the bottom right?
Yeah, that's
North,
the North Indian. That's
I think I prefer the North Indian.
I know. It's Shukra chart. So anyway, okay, let's move. Did we do Coco Chanel last time?
Yes.
Yeah, we did.
Okay, so we did, right? So we can then move forward, because we all established that very strong Lagna Lord in the 8th house and very painful stuff for her, in terms of her relationships and stuff like that. Anyway, let's move forward. Shall we do Saddam Hussein?
Yeah.
Okay, we may come back to Saddam Hussein, because there's something I wanted to point out to you guys, that he's also here. You go Libra Lagna, but the 9th Lord, but because we haven't yet covered the 9th house, so let's march forward with the 9th, and then we'll come back here. Okay. Now, the 9th house is, like I said, one of the greatest trine houses, and it is called the Dharma Bhava or the Bhagya Bhava. Bhagya is destiny, and Dharma is religion or the righteous path, what we consider as righteous, right? And next week, I will give you the 4 pillars of dharma, that is artha, moksha, kama, and so all of that I will give you, and I will the 4 main pillars, because it's good if you know that, so that way you will have a better idea about what your one's dharma is, and what the in the etymology of dharma, what it really means. Dharma is what is one's righteous path. Let's say by profession you are, in the army or the navy. So your dharma is to protect you. So yours is a kshatriya dharma. Kshatriya is to do with protection. They're the fighter class. But class, I don't mean derogatively like a class, I mean in terms of like their dharma is to fight, to protect, to save. And so that is a kshatriya. So that is the dharma. So if they start to say, oh my God, I don't want to go to war, I don't want to go and fight, I just want to just kind of hang out and write poetry, or, hang out and learn astrology or something, or learn Jyotish, then hey, they've gone through a transformation of dharma here. Because from being a kshatriya in the army or navy, they are actually moving towards a more knowledge based dharma. So dharma is also a very dynamic concept. It's not fixed. Like people have this impression that Hinduism is all about fixed classes and that's it. You can't change over, but that is not true. People with knowledge, are meant to teach, and they are meant to share their knowledge, meant to further their knowledge. They are the Brahmins, or the people who are well versed in the Vedic scriptures, Sanskrit, and all sorts of knowledge and all that. Yes, they are Brahmins, Brahmins, and they are there is that is their dharma, to teach and to be the priest, and to be to educate and enlighten people. So they cannot then start to kill people, or to you know sort of it's against their dharma to sort of plot and plod, and and be and get involved themselves in politics. I know a lot of the gurus and all that in India and even worldwide, get involved in politics and corporate stuff. But that is, they're moving away from their dharma. So dharma is a very sort of a very vital concept, and the ninth house is all about the dharma, you know so, and in Hinduism, when we talk of the ninth house, we also are referring to not just the dharma, we are also talking in terms of religion. Now, this is where the distinction is, fundamental difference between the fifth house and the ninth house. Because the fifth house, like I said, is also about devotion. It's also about, in terms of religiosity, but not the sort of mantras and religiosity which comes from like following a structured religion, where you're sort of enrolled into a mutt or enrolled into a church, and you are constantly going there every Sunday, you turn up there. Nothing like that. That's the domain of the ninth house. The fifth house is all about, hey, I feel like meditating, and I'm going to do that every day at 5 or 6 in the morning. And that is, so the fifth house is where we find we love to do that. We love to do something, we are totally devoted to it. So it's a very different thing to the ninth house. Ninth house is also, because the fifth house is the house also of children, so it's the house of the future. Now this is very important, guys, for you to know that in Vedic, when we talk of the lagna, it's about the present. And when I talk about the present, it's like about the existing scheme, at the time, right now. That's what the present is. But when we talk of the fifth house, we are talking about planning, future, because it's the house of children as well. It's our progeny. And the ninth house, because it is the fifth from the fifth, it is the house also of religion and mantras and all, but it is much more to do with the children of the children. So it's like the grandchildren. In a way, the ninth house is the ninth is from lagna. If you are the lagna, then if your children are the future, which is the fifth house, and the ninth house then becomes your past, right? And so it is your parents, your father. That's why the ninth house is highly associated with the father. It is the house for the father. Malefics in the ninth house will have an impact on your father, 100%. Okay, so there is no, you can't get away from it. So there's a very, it's again, like I said, it is also the bhagyasthana. If you want to see the destiny of somebody, how it will proceed, you have to just look at the two houses, fifth house or the ninth house, and ideally both, and figure out what's going to happen. Even if the Lagna Lord has gone to the 12th house, fine. But if the ninth house is strong or the fifth house is strong, the person will be able to bootstrap himself or herself out of their uh, predicaments, whatever predicament the life may throw at them. So that is the power of the ninth house. Many great spiritual masters and ascended spiritual leaders have a very strong ninth house. So because it is also the bhagyasthana. Bhagya is destiny, you know the fortune, what we bring this lifetime with us. It's also the Sayala, wife's brother, as it is Bhavat Bhavam, third from, sorry, yeah, it's the seventh from the third house, right? So it's like the third house is here. So that's your brother, your siblings, your sister. And so the opposite of that is the seventh house, which is the house of spouse, that is their spouse. So that is a concept of Bhavat Bhavam. We will cover Bhavat Bhavam in the next, after we finish the Bhavas. It's a very vital concept in Bhavat Bhavam. Now, it's also the Dharma, as I'm just mentioned, religion, duty, father. Then it is Bhratri Pratnyadi, that is brother's spouse. We already went through this Bhavat Bhavan thing. Then Tirtha Yatra Adi, that is Tirtha Yatra. Tirtha is pilgrimages, shrines, beautiful temples, churches. The Al Camino walk. Yeah, has anybody heard of the famous Al Camino in
Yes.
Spain, España?
Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's
Mhm.
Yes.
one of my favorite. I aspire to go there someday to go for a walk.
Mm.
Now
Me
that is
too.
that is a pilgrimage.
Mm.
That's kind of like you're going from one shrine to another. It's a long walk. Even in India, we have many shrines, many pilgrimages, and all that. It's one of my favorite things to do. So that is all coming under the domain of the ninth house. If you have a planetary planet sorry if you are in the planetary period of the ninth house, then that is beautiful, very auspicious, lot of positive stuff will figure out where your ninth lord is. Even if it is with a malefic, tackle it. Malefics, and I will give you a list next time. Basically, if you have, like, we have a very distinction about if you have uh, if you have Saturn or Saturn aspecting the ninth house, whom do you go to? If you have Mars aspecting it, whom do you go to? If you have Rahu aspecting the ninth house, or Rahu is in the ninth, then you go to a guru. That is a guru, as in like a guru form, like Datatre, or Jupiter or Brihaspati. That is the kind of those are the deities you need to worship or do the mantra for. So the ninth house is a very powerful, it will make or break your destiny. So moving forward, we also derive the ninth harmonic. The Navams chart is one of the most auspicious chart. We always see the Navams chart. From the Navams chart, we will be doing the harmonic charts. You know, very shortly, but the ninth harmonic, the D9 chart, is one of the most important charts. You cannot just see the Rashi chart, you have to see the ninth chart. And the ninth Navams chart is a derivation of they slice the ninth house into 9 different portions, and that's how the ninth the Navams chart is derived. So it is the divinity in the chart. Planets in the ninth or none, or the Lord of the ninth has a power, as I said, or make or break the destiny and fortune. So it is the hand of God. And because the ninth house has got such tremendous power, who do you think the Karaka would be? Any guesses?
Jupiter.
Yes, it's logical. Jupiter will be the Karaka. So if you have a very badly placed ninth lord, or let's say you have malefics there, it's afflicted, then who do you go to? You're despondent. Whom would you go to? You will go to Brihaspati, you'll go to Jupiter to figure out, what's Jupiter doing. And
I have
hopefully, yeah, go on.
I have a question.
Yes,
I mean,
yes.
in my case, I'm Scorpio Lagna.
Mhm.
So moon is the nine lord,
Yes.
which unfortunately I was born in Amavasya.
Okay.
So in this case, the moon is not strong at all. So the dispositor of the nine house is really weak. So who I have to pray to? Sorry.
It's we will have to see your chart, but Amavasya has a special deity. It's called Kali, and but Mars rule lagnas. This is now again an exception. Like I said, there are many yogas and all that. If you have a sun moon aspect or a sun moon conjunction or an opposition, or they are or an aspect, then that is a great Raj Yoga for Aries Lagna and Scorpio Lagnas. So don't panic yet, but it will. But that Amavasya is a separate issue anyway, But the sun moon is very positive for somebody who's a Scorpio Lagna. Which house is it in, Margarita? Hello?
Her mic is
Hi,
muted.
hi. Yeah, sorry. No, because my son is drying his hair, so there is a noise on the background.
Okay.
My moon is the 11th house.
Okay, so the sun moon is happening in the 11th house?
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
In Virgo, yeah?
Mm.
Yeah.
Mm.
So that's very strong, very strong. Beautiful.
Even if it's Avavasya, because, it's not considered a strong of a moon. So the nine house dispositor in this case is like a malefic.
Yeah, I know. It is a
That's why I'm
malefic.
really worried
No, don't be worried.
for my Dharma.
No, not at all. It's very positive. It's going to create a little bit of problem, but that Amavasya is what needs to be tackled, this lifetime, more than anything.
Yeah.
So, but we'll
All right.
come to the remedies of it, right?
Okay. Thank you.
Anyway, so religion, spiritualism, higher studies, learning, long distance travel, diksha, initiation into a mantra, all this comes under the ninth house. Being fifth from the fifth, it controls children and grandchildren, long distance travel, publishing, all of that is ninth. Ninth house is, like I said, one of the most powerful houses. Now let's see a few combinations here. Okay, there are many combinations. Again, like I said, you can't get away with the fact that it is signification of the father, long living father. If should the ninth lord be in deep exaltation, while Venus is in an angle from first house and Jupiter is in ninth from Navamsh Lagna, the father of the native will enjoy long span royal status. Now I have highlighted this royal status for father and wealthy and famous father if the ninth lord is in an angle. Now please bear in mind, if you have a very strong ninth lord and it is having an aspect with Jupiter, and the father will be a king endowed with conveyances or be equal to a king. Let's see this chart. Can everybody see this chart here?
Yep.
Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so what is the lagna?
Sagittarius.
Yes. And what's it's
First
got
Lord in the
Jupiter in
first
lagna.
house.
Sorry.
Yep. Sorry.
Go
Jupiter
on.
in Lagna.
Yes, beautiful. And where's the ninth lord? And now what's happening in the ninth house?
Ninth and ninth. And then Mercury is in there as well.
Yeah, so
10th
Mercury
and
and Sun both are there, right? And Sun
7th.
is in Leo in its own sign. Very strong, right? And it's yes,
Yep.
and it's trining, um, it's trining. What is it trining? Remember this dictum what we just read? Trining Jupiter.
Yep.
Yeah, it's in trines with Jupiter. Okay, let's move to this is much more clearer. Everybody know him?
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yep.
Yeah. So can you see this? The very strong, look at this Jupiter in Lagna and it's trining Sun and Mercury. That's very strong, you know. That's also an Hamsa Mahapurush yoga, by the way. That's a separate yoga. When you have Jupiter in its own sign or in its exaltation, and it is an angle, then that is called the great saintly being. It's literally translated, if you translate it that way, but it's actually for Jupiter, it's called Hamsa Mahapurush yoga. So they have the blessings by the Tattva Deva. They have huge blessings. So Prince Harry is truly blessed. And look at the ninth lord, that is the sun. It's also the Atmakaraka. And it is, yes, as somebody just mentioned, it is the Dharma Karma Dipati Yoga. Can you see the ninth lord and the 10th? Beautiful, yes.
Mm-hmm.
Albeit Venus is debilitated, no doubt. But yet, there is a very strong yoga of ninth and the 10th lord, and the ninth lord is in trines with Jupiter. You know, people who have Sun and Jupiter trines this lifetime, I would encourage them to do some kind of initiation into sort of like a Hare Krishna, or some kind of Vedanta or ancient sort of initiation into from an ashram or something, even if it is like, let's say, Ammachi, the hugging saint, because that will, going forward, they need that spiritual blessings and initiation of a great guru or a spiritual ascended master for their life to open up. So please note, if you have Sun in trines to Jupiter, that is a huge blessing in the chart. Absolutely huge blessing. Is everybody clear on that?
Yep.
So, no, doesn't it depend on the condition of the planets, though, as well? The
Yeah,
condition
but
of
this
Jupiter and
one,
the condition of.
well, yes, of course. What do you mean? But this is in Leo. The sun is strong in Leo. Let's have a look at
Yeah, okay.
another. Let's, shall we do Prince Charles? We'll come back to Prince Charles. Then there are more other dictums of the fortune and all that. But let's do a few charts here, okay? Let's do the Ramakrishna Paramahansa, okay? He was like one of the great masters of Vedanta, and his chief disciple was Swami Vivekananda. Everybody has heard about Ramakrishna Paramahansa, right? That's his wife, Sharda Devi. So here, if you see, what is the Lagna?
Aquarius.
Yes, and think about it. What is it? What's in the Lagna?
Sun, Mercury, and Moon.
Yes. So see, he also had an Amavasya, right? Margarita, he also
Yes.
has an Amavasya, yeah? You're not
Yep.
alone. Okay, so here you go. So if you see here, the sun, and where's the Lagna Lord?
And the ninth house exalted.
Yes, exactly. Can you see that? It's absolutely beautiful. And he was one of the key ascended masters in the Vedantic school, the Advait Vedanta philosophy.
Yep.
And so the Ramakrishna mats, which are the ashrams, they are established all over the country, and they are very, very, very strong, very pure, the Vedantic knowledge that they have established, extremely pure. So you see, this is a beautiful ninth house,
Jupiter's also training in
absolutely.
ninth.
There you go. In
Yep.
from the fifth house, what did I say? So he came from a long list of lineage of great ascended masters. He had huge blessings, and he was a big devotee, a bhakt of Kali,
Mm.
huge. He had visions of Kali, So you see, this is a very very powerful chart here, extremely potent. So you see the what a great great ninth house can do for you. An exalted planet in the ninth house single-handedly will open up everything for you.
Mhm. Did he have children?
No, but he had all the disciples. He had millions of disciples. They are akin to children. Jupiter in the fifth house in
Right.
Leo. It's sorry, in Gemini, but it's retrograde. So anyway, let's move
Okay.
forward. That's their logo. Look at this, the beautiful swan, the pink lotus, and the absolutely beautiful, the water, the rising sun. This is packed with. It's like so many tantric, very positive, though, in a positive way, symbolisms here in his logo. That's the Ramakrishna Mission Trust that he established, or rather Swami Vivekananda established on his behalf. He was just following his own guru, Ramakrishna.
But we don't see it. Okay.
Sorry.
We didn't see the logo because our videos were
Oh, is it? Oh,
massive.
sorry. I should have not have it. Can everybody see this? This is the Bhakti Vedanta Swami Srila Prabhupada. Can everybody see his chart here?
Yes.
Yes.
We know all about the Krishna consciousness ISKCON, don't we? Yeah.
Yeah. Yes, we do.
So he was another, at the age of 69, he traveled to America for the first time. He because he didn't have money, and you would think, like, why would a 69-year-old man want to travel to America, crying out loud? He should just stay where he is. But his guru, before dying, told him, you have a mission, and you have to take your faith, you have to take the Krishna consciousness to the Western world. And so all he had, and because he had no money, but he had faith, huge amounts of faith. And that is what the power of the ninth house is. I'm trying to get you to understand how vital the ninth house is. The word faith, bhakti is about devotion and passion. That's the fifth house. And the ninth house is faith, absolute, unswerving, you know unflinching faith he had in his guru. And his guru said, you can go and just do it. And he was a great devotee of Krishna, and obviously he established 108 temples all around. He had, while he was in, because he didn't have money, he didn't have he couldn't take a flight. Of course there were flights in 1965, but he couldn't take it from India. So what he did was he got onto a cargo ship, which took months, I think 6 months, or god knows how many ever months. And essentially he had like two heart attacks, which is what is documented, a couple of heart attacks, and yet he was like, oh no, I'm just going to carry on. Can you imagine? So he was on an absolute mission. This is called faith. No matter what comes, I'm going to still go ahead and do it. And so he single-handedly, from 70 to in like, the 10-12 years. He completely, before he died, he literally, there was like a whole movement of Krishna consciousness, ISKCON, all over the world. And he established 108 temples, which is a mala, the beautiful mystical number of 108. So you see what a powerful chart. Now, if you look at his chart, can somebody tell me his chart now? What's his lagna?
Sagittarius.
Yes.
Sagittarius. Yeah.
And where's the lagna lord?
In the 5th house, in the 9th house
Aries.
The
Fifth
10th.
house.
with Sun in Mula Trikona.
Yes.
Yeah.
Thank you, Margarita. Very good. With Ketu, Jupiter, and Sun.
So is Ketu also well placed? Because if Rahu, Mula Trikona is Aquarius,
Yes.
so Ketu Mula Trikona is Leo. Because we often talk about that Rahu is all right in Aquarius, but I haven't heard much about Ketu in Leo.
Ketu in Leo is not in its any Mula Trikona or anything.
Okay.
It's
right.
in fact, if anything, it's in its fall position, but I will verify exactly what it is. But it is not in a great position. But what is great about Ketu and Jupiter and Sun is Jupiter and Ketu, as we go into advanced studies, we may have to stop now, but as we go into advanced studies, you will find that the yogas, the nodes where Ketu conjoins, which planet it conjoins, there is a particular yoga it forms. And this particular Jupiter Ketu is called the great Parampara Yoga. Parampara in Sanskrit means the great lineage tradition. And so he obviously came from a great tradition, a lineage. He was following his guru. That's it. His guru told him, you go to America, you go to the Western world and find the Krishna consciousness and raise the level of spirituality worldwide. That was his mission, and that's all he was interested in. Never mind the heart attacks, never mind no food to eat on the ship and, all non-vegetarian food. Never mind all of that. That wasn't his concern.
Yeah, probably also Rahu in his Mula Trikona in the 3rd house, which is also the house of courage.
Yes.
And also foreign travel. In this case, Rahu, but it's also journey. So it could be also, he went abroad.
Absolutely. And then you have the Sun Jupiter conjunction, which is very powerful. Jupiter in Leo is a very powerful, it's very single-minded, it's very strong in Leo. Jupiter in Leo is extremely strong. And because it is with the Sun, it's all about truth and faith, and it's all about the 9th house. So and the Jupiter in Leo, Jupiter in Pisces has a very different flavor to Jupiter in Leo. Jupiter in Leo and Jupiter in Sagittarius are more into sort of like fighting for religion, for establishing concretely, while Jupiter in Pisces,
Fire signs.
Yeah, it's exactly. It has an element of, sort of like a very powerful faith that I am right and I will continue. It's a very strong Agni there. But
crusade, like the crusade.
Absolutely. And full faith, 100%. He is on the side of truth. That's Satya for him, So you have to understand on what kind of a trip he was. And of course, ISKCON is absolutely fantastic. It changed the spiritual psyche of people worldwide. People were lost, depressed, and all that. All they had to do is just sing and dance and at ISKCON, and they felt better, and his 16-syllable Hare Krishna mantra, even if anyone does it, they will, it is said of the 16-syllable Hare Krishna mantra, which he, propounded, it is said that all your sins will just disappear. You will feel elated. Just try it. So, it's absolutely, YouTube has full of all these resources. So I would encourage you to think along those lines about that. The 9th house is such a vital and a powerful force, and it's all about the faith.
And I have a
Can
question.
you,
Sorry, one by one, guys. We may
Go
have to
ahead- go
stop
ahead.
now.
I would like to know.
Yeah.
Okay. I would like to know, you keep repeating that, for example, Jupiter in the ninth in Leo is very strong, but it's not exalted, or so is it very strong because of it's a fire sign, or?
No, it's not because it's a fire sign, but because it is in trines to Sagittarius.
Okay.
Okay, but we will come to that, you know, why it is certain placements of for all the planets are quite strong.
Okay.
Yeah, and there is a logic to that why there is, but we are not yet there. Okay,
Okay.
but bear in mind that Jupiter in Pisces has a very different flavor to Jupiter in Sagittarius.
Okay.
Mm.
And another question. I heard in a video that you were talking about a chart, and you said Mars rules the ninth and the fourth house, and then you said Mercury rules the second and the 11th. I don't understand the fourth and the 11th, because Mars is only the ruler of the ninth house.
No, no,
and-
no. When I said Mars doesn't rule, it's the Karaka. Mars
okay.
is the Karaka, that is a significator for the third house and the sixth house. Okay. I
No,
didn't.
no. You said you were asking, okay, who is ruling? Who, which houses is Mars ruling? And then the answers were, and you said yes, Mars rules the ninth house and the fourth house, and Mercury rules the second house and the 11th house.
Was that in the chart? Some chart we did? Because
Yeah, that was in another video.
yeah, Phil, why don't you put it up on the
okay.
on the chat in Telegram group, and I would answer it there. Okay.
Okay.
So all these
think he's
questions you can
talking
easily
about
put
the-
them there, because then you know. Anyway, thank you very much, guys, and see
Thank you,
next
Sona.
time.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank
Thank
you.
Thank you very
Thank
much.
you.